You have more than two alternatives at the same time. For example, are you married, unmarried, divorced, or widower? There is no fifth option. There is no scope for fifth option. In fact, there is no fifth option. There is no fifth category for any person. A person can either be married or he can be unmarried or divorced or widower. Here it is very necessary to take care that such type of question, the question which can be asked in a structured form, should not be asked in a dichotomous form. Here if you ask the same question in a dichotomous form, where you have only two alternatives, are you married, yes or no. But if a person is divorcee, he would get confused. He would be in confusion. What should I write? Which marital status should I mention here? Before getting divorced or after getting divorced? This creates confusion. So it is very necessary to keep in mind that if it is possible to ask the question in a structured form, the same question should not be asked in a dichotomous form, right? In the same way, do you belong to SC, OBC, ST or open category? There may not be any fifth category, right? Here the same question should not be asked in a dichotomous way, that whether you belong to general category, yes or no. Such question should not be asked in dichotomous category, a dichotomous question, because if a person belonging to ST may get confused, what should I write here, right? So where you have more scope of answering, at the same time the limited number of answers, the grouped answer, that question should be asked in a structured form. The next type is MCQs, multiple choice question, very popular even in your exams and the most loved questions. There are number of possible answers here. Here the respondent gets scope of answering more number of possible answers. The last word is usually indicated by other. For example, do you invest the saving in, now look at the options. The options are given here: shares, bank, precious metal, company deposits, and the last word other. Here the respondent, the one who gives answer, may be investing in share, may be investing in bank or precious metal or company deposit, or he may not be investing in either four of these options. He may be investing in real estate, which is not given in the option. For that answer, he need to write in the fifth option, that is other. He need to specify here if his answer is not in the option. That is why in multiple choice question, the respondent gets scope of answering on his own choice. A scope of answering even if the option is not in the question, because the last option is always there in multiple choice question, that is other. The next type is ranking item question. Here the respondent have number of alternatives. Respondent is asked to indicate his order of preference. Here in the answer, the respondent may have various choices. Let us look at an example. Which factor do you consider most important while purchasing a car? Now look into the bracket. Number them as per your choice. Obviously, if any person wants to buy a car, he keeps all these four factors in mind. He keeps price in mind, he keeps appearance of the car in mind, that is looks in his mind. He also considers average in his mind and the brand of the car in his mind. In fact, all these factors are important for the respondent. But here he has to give his preference, that which choice you give the first preference. Whether you give the first preference to the average of the car, or you give the first preference to the price of the car, or to the appearance of the car, or to the brand of the car, right? Here in fact all the questions, all the answers are to be kept in mind, are considered by respondent, but the important thing is here is the preference of the respondent. He has to give his preference number. For example, which factors do you consider the most while before having a soft drink, before drinking a soft drink? The flavor, the price, the quantity, or the brand's name, right? In fact, he keeps all the 4 factors in his mind, but he has to give the preference number here. That is why this type of question is known as ranking item question. By the name itself, we come to know that here the respondent has to rank the item numbers, has to give preference, has to give the number according to the importance of his choice. To which answer he gives the first preference, to which answer he gives the second preference, third preference, or the last preference, right? The next type of question is open-end questions. Here the respondent has to give his or her opinion. The answer to such questions are quite long, little long. In fact, these all types of questions are broadly divided into close end and open end. Close end means respondent just has to tick mark the answer, or just has to strike off the answer, or just has to circle the options, or just has to number the options. That is close-ended question. The dichotomous question, structured question, MCQs were the close-ended question. Even the ranking item question was the close-ended question. There respondent doesn't have to think more. Options are already there in front of his eyes. That saves the time of the respondent. So they were close-ended question. And the another broad category is open-ended question. Here the respondent has his own choice to answer. Answers to such questions are long. Again, they differ from individual to individual. There is no predefined category here. Respondent doesn't have the option here. And as he has to give his own choice, own suggestions, own views, every respondent have different views or different feedback about the product. That is why it may differ from individual to individual, right? That is why it is open-ended question. Now in your questionnaire, open-ended question should be a very limited in number. There should not be more than 2 open-ended question, because as I told you, respondent may not have time, may not spare time to answer all this question, because it is not of his duty, it is not of his interest. He is not going to get anything from the answer by answering this question. It is the investigator who requires information, who requires to reach at some conclusion. That is why he is asking question. So keeping time aspect in his mind, the all types of questions should be prepared, and such open-ended question which takes little time of the respondent should be added. Only 1 or 2 types, only 1 or 2 open-ended questions should be there in your questionnaire. At the same time, such open-ended question should be put at the last. Obviously the lengthy answers you prefer to answer at the last. Even in your examination, in your question paper, you don't answer lengthy questions. You first gives MCQs, objectives type of question first, and that makes more interesting. That is why that should be kept in mind, that open-ended question should be put at the last in the questionnaire. Now let us look at an example of open-ended question. What is your opinion about this film? Here the question is unstructured. Opinion can be different from individual to individual. Someone would say the film was good, but I did not like the song. The songs were good, but I did not like the story. The story was good, but I did not like the actor and actresses. Wow, the actress was the good, but what a bakwas movie it was. There can be various answers, to this question. That is why this question is known as unstructured question. Here the respondent is not bounded to answer in a particular manner. He is free to answer in his own way. He is free to give his or her feedback on his own way. That is unstructured question. The opinion, the suggestion, the advice is asked in this unstructured question. Now second is word association. Here this is also known as open-end question. A word is given and the respondent is asked to write down, after reading this word, which word comes first in your mind. For example, cloud. After reading the word cloud, which word comes first in your mind? Someone would say rain, someone would say darkness, someone would say sky. right? There can be again various responses from the respondent. Such type of word association question is more used in psychoanalysis type of surveys. If psychological survey is required, such type of question is asked to know the mental thinking of an individual. Next is complete the sentence. I like this movie because dash, because the songs were good, because the music was good, because the heroine is my favorite, the hero is my favorite. There can be various reason. Because the star cast was good, there can be various reason. Again, he has to just complete the sentence. He can complete in his own way. He can either give positive feedback or give negative feedback. Now, it is very necessary to remember certain points while framing the questions. There are certain don'ts and do's. There are certain don'ts and do's while preparing the good question. And you should always remember don't first. Always, of course, you should remember do's also. But you keep don'ts in your mind, you'll understand that this should not be done. This should not be asked in the questionnaire. This type of question should not be asked in the questionnaire. That don'ts and do's will be explained by Professor Manisha Shah. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Hiral. You explained all various types of possible questions that can be part of a good questionnaire. Yes, all these 5 types of questions can be put together in a good questionnaire to reach to some conclusion or to know about some particular problem. Broadly speaking, a good questionnaire serves twofold purposes. It accurate communication as well as the purpose of accurate response. The more accurate the communication is, the more accurate the response will be. So, it is the duty of the investigator, it is the duty of the questioner to frame his question in such a way as it serves the purpose truly and most possibly. So, he has to take into consideration certain points, that is to say, as she also said, the do's and don'ts of a good questioner. So, I am here to discuss these do's and don'ts of a questioner. The first important point that the questioner should keep in mind is that the question should be short, clear and simple. For example, if we want to know about the age group of a particular person, of a particular class, then we should ask simple question like what is your age? Now the same question can be made difficult and lengthy by asking how many years will you complete in 2013. Now there is no necessity to make this question a long question. Similarly, a question like how long have you been married can be made difficult by asking how many years ago did your marriage take place. Now the language of a good questioner should be easy and in conversational tone. The respondent should feel that the questioner is asking him question just to gain knowledge, not to check his intellectual level. The questioner should not create that impression. So the next point, equally important point, is that the question should be to the point of the subject. Suppose we want to make a survey regarding the health of some particular class of the society, of some particular people. Then a question like this, do you suffer from any chronic disease? This question serves the purpose. Now there is no need to ask some irrelevant or unnecessary question like what is the name of the doctor? What was the name of the doctor at the time of your birth? Or what is the name of the doctor who treats you? Or what is your birth date or even birthplace? These are irrelevant questions. The questioner should focus to the point, to the core of the subject. For example, if we ask somebody that what is the value of your house? Now in this question, the term value is not clear. It is a vague term. Now the respondent may get confused about which value the questioner is asking, whether he is asking him the essays to value for tax purposes, or is asking for the selling value of his house, or the value at which he purchased the house. So it is better to be precise in asking question that what is the present market value of your property, of your house. So this would be the proper question for knowing the market value. Now equally important point is that questions should be within the scope of the respondent. It should not be difficult to answer. The respondent may not feel in any way that the questioner is checking his intellectuality. The questioner should keep in mind the average intellectual level of the class. There may be certain exceptional cases, but we are here concerned with the general mass of the people. So he has to take into consideration the average intellectual level. Suppose we are making inquiry among art student, and if we ask them a question related to science, if it is a simple question on science, suppose you ask an art student that what is the standard temperature for melting ice, he may find it difficult to answer. Similarly, people belonging to the domestic class or domestic servant, so we should not ask them some question about their opinion about the government policies or foreign affairs. So these questions should be excluded. The questioner should keep in mind that this questionnaire is meant for this particular group of people. Now it should be within their scope, and then only respondent find it interesting to answer them. Then the next equally important point that the investigator has to keep in mind is that the question should have neutral and objective tone. The questioner, the investigator, should not try to influence the respondent. The questions framed by the investigator should be free from any bias or prejudice. Now if you ask anybody that you don't have the bad habit of smoking, do you? Now here you convey your message indirectly that you consider this habit of smoking bad.